Tottenham Hotspur are champions of Europe.
The wait for silverware is over!
After 17 long years without a single trophy, Spurs finally had their moment. And at the center of it all was a man who never lost belief. It didn't matter that the Premier League season was rocky. It didn't matter that every week, Ange was either fighting a fan or a reporter.
I'm not a clown. I never will be, mate, and you're really disappointed that you use such terminology.
He delivered the one thing that the club craved more than anything, a title.
I mean, that won't happen again for another 50 years.
No, I think you're absolutely dead right.
But what made it even more surreal wasn't just the trophy, it was that quote.
I'll correct myself, I don't usually win things, I always win things in my second year. I don't say things unless I believe them.
He said it casually, calmly, like it was a matter of fact. I know people were waiting to clown him. Who was this guy? Walking into a club that was cursed, talking about winning silverware. Mourinho.
We will be connected forever, like I am with all my previous clubs, a part of Mr. Levy Club.
Conte.
This is the first time in my career to see a situation like this.
Pochettino had all left Spurs empty-handed. The club had a reputation for not winning trophies.
Tottenham story is this. 20 years that there is the owner and never won something.
It's the history of the Tottenham.
Typical Tottenham performance. They obviously will let you down most times.
But Ange wasn't talking nonsense. He was speaking from a life spent proving people wrong. He did it in Brisbane. He did it in Yokohama. He did it in Glasgow. And now, against all odds, he did it in North London. Spurs became European champions before Arsenal. To truly understand just how impressive this title was, I have to take you back. Because at one point, Spurs really did feel cursed.
You know, there's probably been supporters here who've been following us for those 41 years. We haven't won one in Europe.
People forget that Tottenham are a pretty big club. It just happens that their golden years were a while ago. They are the first English team to win a major European trophy, winning the Winners' Cup in 1963.
And what now for Tottenham? Double winners, of course, just the other season. Cup winners last campaign, and now in 1963 they've conquered Europe. Can they kick on from here?
With Bill Nicholson in charge, they also won the FA Cup in 1962, the double in 1961, as well as the UEFA Cup in 1972. After Nicholson stepped down in 1974, Tottenham did go through a brief slump, being relegated at the end of the 1976-1977 season. But the manager at the time, Keith Birkinshaw, quickly turned around the team, getting them promoted and managing to win back-to-back FA Cup trophies in 1981 and 1982, as well as another UEFA Cup in 1984. But while Spurs were seeing success on the pitch, off the pitch, it was a different story. In the early 80s, Spurs fell into some debt after refurbishing their stadium and bolstering their squad. Seeing a moment of opportunity, lifelong Spurs fan and property developer Irving Scholar led a takeover of the club in 1982. In an attempt to maximize the profits of the club, the team became the first football club from the United Kingdom to be placed on the London Stock Exchange. It might seem normal now, but at that time, Tottenham was well ahead of its time. Very few English teams were running their club like a business. Tottenham were paving the way for what would end up being the commercialization of the English game. They signed players like Paul Gascoigne and Gary Lineker, who helped Spurs win the 1991 FA Cup. But ever since that title, Spurs wouldn't see much success again. Despite a succession of managers and players such as Teddy Sheringham, Jurgen Klinsmann, and David Ginola, Spurs finished mid-table most seasons with few trophies won. They won the League Cup in 1999 under George Graham and again in 2008 under Juan de Ramos, but nobody was considering Tottenham a truly elite club. For example, while they won the League's Cup in 2008, they actually finished 11th in the Premier League.
Berbatov against the club he left in August. United rampant.
But in the early 2010s, their level of talent improved. Harry Redknapp was appointed as the manager and he brought some stability. With players like Gareth Bale, Luka Modric, Jermaine Defoe, Danny Rose, and Kyle Walker, they secured a Champions League spot for the first time in the Premier League era. They also beat Arsenal in the league for the first time in over 10 years after Danny Rose scored in a 2-1 win.
Clear. And as far as Danny Rose, oh! Danny Rose with a volley from 30 yards! How about that to score your first goal for your club?
Gareth Bale also transformed from a good young player.
Gareth Bale, 2-0 for Tottenham. Are they finally going to break the jinx?
To one of the very best players in the world, especially in his last few years at Tottenham. His speed, strength, skills we still haven't seen someone with that combination of abilities in the Premier League. Real Madrid literally thought he was Ronaldo's regen, just left-footed. But even with this quality, Spurs weren't able to push into the next level, constantly just hovering around a Champions League spot. To make matters worse, Spurs ended up selling their two best players in Bale and Modric to Real Madrid. The £86 million of Bale money was not spent wisely. Only Christian Eriksen was a memorable signing that made an impact. Lamela is basically only known for his Rabona goal, and nobody talks about Paulinho or Chadli. Things like that have definitely hurt Spurs' reputation in the footballing world. To spend that much money and not improve your team is truly impressive, and not in a good way. In an effort to get back on the right track, Levy appointed Mauricio Pochettino in 2014. The Argentine manager had done great work at Southampton. He was Premier League proven and great at developing youth players. Poch brought a fresh, energetic style of play to White Hart Lane. A combination of great recruitment, promoting players existing at the club, and youth development led Tottenham to be on the right track. Harry Kane had been in the squad up to that point, but under Pochettino became a starter. He went from being called a one-season wonder to banging in 20 goals a season for fun.
The greatest one-season wonder in Premier League history!
Dele Alli, Eric Dyer, and Heung-min Son also helped as Tottenham finally began to sign the right players. Within no time, they didn't just progress, they were challenging for the title. They went from 6th place the year before Pochettino's arrival to 5th place in his first season with the club to 2nd place in his 3rd season. Their highest finish since winning the league back in 1961. If you didn't get a chance to watch young Dele Alli, you have to go back and watch this guy's highlights.
They're not stopping the crosses coming in here, Palace. Ali, great skill. Oh, what a goal! Oh, this young man is a sensation! Dele Alli!
Playing in behind Harry Kane, he was fantastic. He was a much better version of what we're seeing now from Jude Bellingham. Prime Dele Alli and Eriksen around Kane was so fun to watch. Then on top of this, they had Kyle Walker and Danny Rose as the fullbacks pushing forward. This was proper football, none of this center back and fullback nonsense we're seeing now. They also had Moussa Dembele, who, whenever any former Tottenham player gets on a podcast, raves about how good this guy was.
My opinion, Dembele.
Exactly what Dele Alli said.
Dembele.
Everyone says that.
Yeah.
Everyone says that. Every Tottenham teammates I do, everyone says Moussa Dembele.
He was one of the most important players in the Spurs side. Excellent box-to-box midfielder who excelled at carrying the ball forward.
For me, I put him in next to Ronaldinho, Maradona, Okocha.
Then in defense, the center-back combination of Alderweireld and Vertonghen was a force. And of course, Hugo Lloris behind them. The future was looking good. Levy was even investing in the infrastructure as Tottenham said goodbye to White Hart Lane as they began construction on their new Tottenham Stadium. But the new stadium halted investments on the pitch. In the summer of 2018, Tottenham became the first Premier League team in history to not make any new signings. Like, they didn't even sign a single player. No loan, no youth player, nothing.
Let's make history. Let's make history together, Daniel. Let's not sign anybody.
To not invest after finishing 3rd the season before is absolutely crazy to me. But maybe Levy saw something we didn't, because despite injuries to Kane, Son, and Dele Alli, Lucas Moura and Fernando Llorente stepped up, scoring big goals as Tottenham finished 4th in the league. They even somehow made it to the Champions League final that year, despite barely making it out of the groups. That entire Champions League run was a fantastic story, from Tottenham beating City after Pep called Tottenham the Harry Kane team and instead Heung-min Son stepped up and eliminated them, to the miracle against Ajax where Lucas Moura came up big. Tottenham had beaten all odds to get to that Champions League final, but sadly, they lost. Despite the investments, the fantastic development of players like Son and Kane, Tottenham still had nothing to show. They had done well in the sense that they had established themselves as a club that could regularly get Champions League football, but they had no silverware. There was still some optimism around the club. I mean, after all, after spending no money and having injuries to their key players, they had somehow finished 4th and gone to the final of the Champions League. The next summer, Levy learned from his mistakes, and they broke the bank, signing Ndombele for a record fee along with Ryan Sessegnon and Lo Celso. But 12 games in, they sacked Pochettino after a rough start. On top of this, Ndombele was a massive flop. He had moments where he looked great, but for a record-breaking fee, you expected way more. With Poch gone, Levy went for Mourinho, which just seemed like an odd choice. You have an owner with a no-nonsense mentality who is very frugal when it comes to spending, hiring a manager who in all the clubs he's been at, it's a win-now mentality. Should come as no surprise that the Portuguese didn't last long. He was fired before the FA Cup, which honestly reinforced the stereotype that Tottenham doesn't have a winning mentality.
Tottenham fans, don't get me wrong, but the only club in my career where I don't have still a deep feeling is Tottenham.
Feel like at least he could have let Mourinho manage that final, considering he was the one that had helped Tottenham reach that stage. But I think a part of it was that he didn't want Mourinho winning a trophy and then sacking him. According to the Telegraph, Levy was hopeful that the Mourinho sacking would help provide the squad with a psychological boost ahead of the cup final, but honestly, that could just be PR. Levy being ruthless and shady wasn't something new either. When Harry Kane had signed a 6-year contract back in 2018, he had apparently made a gentleman's agreement with Levy that if Spurs failed to win silverware in the 2021 season, he would be allowed to move on. It made sense. Harry Kane was one of, if not the best striker in the world while being at Tottenham. He was scoring for fun even in seasons where Tottenham were struggling. He wanted to win trophies, and he knew that if Tottenham didn't make the moves that was required, he would never win a trophy there. Well, 3 years later, after a horrific season from Tottenham, their worst campaign since 2009, Kane wanted to leave to go to Manchester City. He wanted to win trophies, and he realized that Tottenham might not be the place to do that. His move to City, though, was blocked by Levy, who rejected any idea of some gentleman's agreement between the two of them. He did, of course, allow Kane to leave to Bayern eventually, but it really showed the ruthlessness of Levy. On top of being ruthless, Levy is also smart. He learned from his mistakes, and that was evident when he put an end to the managerial carousel and picked up Ange Postecoglou. The Australian was a highly touted manager after his time with Celtic, and immediately showed why that was the case, receiving the Manager of the Month award for August. In September of 2024, he became the first Tottenham manager to earn points from Arsenal away since Poch did it 4 years prior. He also got Spurs' first victory over Liverpool in 5 years after a 2-1 win at home. He won the Manager of the Month again for September and October.
Tottenham Hotspur Football Club wondering if this 23-24 campaign is going to be their year.
Not only were Tottenham winning, but they were playing some of the most entertaining football in the league. It was a brilliant change of scenery for Tottenham fans who the previous season had to watch Conte's negative football and then watch the Italian trash the club in every post-match press conference.
They lost confidence, they lost spirit, they lost to be a team.
If it wasn't for a second half collapse in the Premier League, Ange and Tottenham would have gone Champions League football. While they missed out on Champions League football in 2024, the 2025 Europa League title got them the European football they craved. It definitely wasn't the way they planned it, but hey, they got the job done. Champions of Europe. Some clubs can't sing that. It was a moment of redemption for so many people, not just Ange Postecoglou. James Maddison silenced his doubters. Brennan Johnson went from deactivating his social media accounts in September of 2024 because of the online abuse he received to scoring the winning goal in Bilbao. Solanke, whose price tag was questioned on multiple occasions throughout the season, was now a champion. Van de Ven, who battled through injuries all season, made an overhead kick clearance that was worthy of a goal itself. Heung-min Son, who is now an unk on the team, solidified his status as a Spurs legend. I'm pretty sure like 99% of Tottenham fans already saw him as one, but the photos of him lifting the club's first title in nearly 2 decades enhance his reputation even further. Whatever the future holds, they can never take this moment away from Tottenham fans. It's etched in their history. Frankly, who even cares about the Premier League? It's gotten a bit boring. To see why the best league in the world is slowly losing a bit of its glamour, you gotta check out this video right here.